Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your presenter this morning. We're looking at one of our webinars in the series for management reports that we've been running, and obviously we're going to continue to run over the next couple of weeks. This is session 4, which we're looking at running management reports for a previous and also future financial years. So quick common queries these. So when you want reports outside of your current financial year. Session should last around about 45 minutes. Just depends how many questions we get and if we need to go off at a tangent here and there. I'll try and keep on track though. Now, for those of you that may be new to webinars, we'll just quickly run through just a little bit of housekeeping, just so you know what's going to be happening. Obviously, I'll be sharing my screen. We've got some slides as well, so you'll be able to see what's happening in the software. You don't need a microphone for the sessions. If you've got one and you have enabled it, you will find it's muted automatically. You can't unmute yourself during the session. So any questions you have for us, you'll need to pop them in the questions panel. And to access that, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon, which is on your taskbar down the right-hand side of your screen. If you give that a click, it'll expand the panel. You get access to that box in the bottom. Any comments, questions, pop them in there. Remember to click send so that we can see them, and then we'll try and get an answer to you. Today we're joined by Abby, Jackie and Matt. They'll be working tirelessly in the background to getting the answers out to you. So you may get a straightforward answer. You may get, if maybe your question's not clear, you'll get a question back. So we'll try and be explicit with the level of detail so we can give you an answer first time. You may get a link to a help article if there's more detailed information available for you. Or if it's a bit more complex, they might even refer you to or advise you to get in touch with our support team. Now, as normal, the webinar is being recorded and a link will be included on your follow-up email, which you'll receive round about an hour after we finish. And it will also include 2 other links. One will be to our registration page. Loads of webinars available, so do get yourself signed up for those. And also a link to our recordings page. So loads of recordings. If you've missed any sessions, do check that out. There's well over 100 topics on there now. But do keep your questions coming throughout. Now, before we get stuck in, just as a reminder for the webinar series that we've been running, these are the key 6 topics that we're covering at the moment. So nominal records, working with the chart of accounts. Yesterday we looked at the trial balance, profit loss and balance sheet. We'll be building on the profit and loss a little bit today. That's what we're really going to concentrate on reports wise, looking at how you go about running that for a previous and future financial year. This afternoon we're going to be looking at reconciling your aged debtors and creditor reports. So it's quite a common query, that one at year end. And then tomorrow Abby's going to be taking you through the business dashboard. And then of course we've got the quiz as well. Now, to qualify for the digital badge, which you would earn by attending this series of webinars, you need to attend 5 out of the first 6 topics. You don't necessarily have to attend in order, as long as you attend 5 of the 6, but you must attend one of the quiz sessions as well. And in response to the last couple of days where we've had bits of feedback saying, well, actually, I can't attend the quiz, or I can't attend session 5 and 6, for instance. What we've done is we've added some more dates, and they will take place in the first 2 weeks of May. So plenty of opportunities. If you've missed any sessions and maybe you can't attend next week, have a look at that timetable. Remember, the link is included on your follow-up email, and get yourself registered for those. So plenty of opportunity to attend the sessions and qualify for that digital badge. Right, let's have a quick look at what we're going to be covering in today's session though. So nice, easy agenda, this one. Or not so much an easy agenda, but maybe quite a nice short agenda. So we're going to start with a basic introduction just to set the scene just a little bit, and then we'll get stuck into some demonstrations. So the order in today's session is going to be quickly recap of the current year, so running your management reports. We're then going to look at a future year, so what options have you got? And then we're going to look at what if I need to rerun a report from a previous financial year. Again, what options have you got? And the options do vary as well, depending on the level of software that you're running. Just at the end, we'll open up to additional questions. So if there's any outstanding, I'm hoping Abby, Jackie and Matt will pick the majority of those up, but I'll chip in along the way, I'm sure. But we'll also explain more about the additional support as well. And also, if you do qualify for the badge, we've got a little video so you can see what that process is going to look like. Right, so let's get stuck in. So a little bit of an introduction just to start. So the common question we get when we talk about running management reports, and probably this is the most common one. People contact our support about it, submit email queries and submit the queries online. So you're in the position where you haven't run your year end yet. So you've started processing in the new financial year, and you want me to run the likes of a profit and loss report for what will be your new financial year. So the common question, haven't run my year end yet, can I run a P&L for my new financial year? So management report wise, as I say, we're going to look at the three different scenarios. We're going to start with current year, move on to a future year, and then we'll look back at the previous year and discuss what options you've got. Right, okay, so let's start with the current year first of all then. So what options do you have? Now, most of you, if you maybe attended yesterday's session, I should say, where we looked at the key management reports that you've got available. There's different variations of these as well if you go into the reporting area, etc. But the main three management reports, there are options for those at the top of the nominal codes window. So they're on the toolbar, trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet. So those are designed to run for periods within your current financial year, and they're based around monthly balances. So those ones, you could run, say, they're based on calendar months, so you could run from, say, January to October, for instance. What these reports don't enable you to do, these specific ones, is run for an exact date range. So you couldn't say, right, I want to run from the 10th of August to the 19th of October. You can't do that. Not with those reports. You can with the transactional profit and loss reports. We'll be touching on that one a little bit later on, but those standard ones, they're based around those monthly balances that we covered in the key management report session. Now, one thing I would mention about these is when you run things like your trial balance, your profit and loss, and your balance sheet, if it's at a specific sort of period end, such as a month end, a year end, take copies of them, and it means you've always got them. We'll be touching on that a little bit later as well. So just export them. So if we just give you a quick example of that as well, if I just quickly share my screen. So when you go to nominal codes, and let's say we're at year end. So let's say we wanted the trial balance. We've got options. Obviously, you can print it, you can preview it, you can email it, but you can also send it to file. You can obviously do that from the preview screen as well. So we just click run, and we'll get an option to export it. Now, I've actually already done this in preparation for some questions and some of the demos we've got later, but you can save it as a PDF. So I've created a folder on my desktop. I've just called it Sage Reports, and I've got a one there called a subfolder called Year End 2024. So it's whatever you want to sort of, if you want to save it to your network drive, if you got one, or wherever else you want to store it, or as I've done, I've just popped it on the desktop, just so you've got copies of them should you need them. So nice and easy to do that as well. You can see it defaults to a PDF, and obviously you've got your file name, whatever you want to call it. So if I just want to call it trial balance, I can click save. I'll replace mine because obviously it already exists. You're then prompted with the sort of the criteria. When do you want to run that report up to? So in this case, it will be month 12, December 2024 in this case. And then I would just OK that, and that would be it done. Now, just bear me one moment there. That's better. Right. So nice and easy to run your reports. As I say, these ones. So if we just pick on profit and loss as an example, and we look at the criteria, and as you'll see, the main criteria, it's looking at your current financial year. So on the drop down, it starts at month 1. You can click one up and choose brought forward if you needed to. Generally for profit and loss, you wouldn't have any brought forward balances. They would have been cleared when you last run a year end, or if it's your first financial year, again, you wouldn't expect to have anything brought forward for profit and loss codes. So you've got month 1 through to month 12, and then you do have a future option. We'll be touching on that one in a couple of minutes time. So a couple of little tips there. When you're running those reports, save copies it as PDFs. You've got them almost as like a mini archive of reports. You can obviously create a company archive as well. That will be done automatically when you run a year end. And again, we'll be touching on that a little bit later. Also, you've got the batch reporting option. Now, you have this option in standard and professional only. So the likes of your trial balance, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, you don't have to run them individually. With the batch reporting option that's available in the standard and professional levels, you can simply go to Tools, Batch Reporting, and in my list of batch reports, I've got the likes of those 3 reports. There's a default one set up there, and I can just select that, and if I just preview it, it will ask me for one set of criteria for the batch of reports. If you've got other reports in the mix as well, like aids, debtors, creditors, that type of thing, your criteria is just going to be that little bit longer. But this is the combined criteria for those 3 reports. So if I just OK that, and you'll see it generates the 3 reports in one go. So I've got tabs for each of the reports that were included in that batch. Now there is a webinar recording available, and that will be on the list of recordings, which the link to that list is included on your follow-up email. So do watch out for that if you want to learn more about batch reporting, using it, adding extra reports, and building your own batches of reports as well, just to save you that little bit of time. But really, that's your current financial year. Again, if you need a little bit more advice on that one, I would encourage you maybe come along to the standard sort of management report session for the trial balance, the profit and loss, and the balance sheet. But as I say, those key ones, are based around really your current financial year. Now let's get stuck into the more difficult parts. If we go back to the slide for a moment, as I mentioned, you've got that common support query. So out of all the queries, this is probably the most common, where you're trying to get that P&L for your new financial year. So what options have you got? Well, there's 2 key ones. There are others as well, but the 2 key options, one is to go back to the standard report, and I'll show you a demonstration of this one in a moment as well. So when you run the likes of the profit and loss reports, you can run it for the period future to future. So by default, it defaulted month 1 to month 12, but you can do future to future. And that means it's looking at balances beyond the end of your financial year only then in that period column. So that's a nice quick win, that one, to be able to get a profit and loss for everything beyond the end of your financial year. But it is everything beyond the end of your financial year. So for instance, my set of data runs up to the end of December 2024 with regard to the financial year. So I can run the standard profit and loss for the period future, but that would cover everything from, say, January of this year up to the current date, and I may have entered even more transactions beyond that if I've future dated some. What I can't do is say, right, I want that one for January only of this year, or January and February only. It would look at everything. The other option you've got, and this is an option as by default is available in standard and professional only, it's the transactional management reports. Now, these reports, if you're on the essentials level and it's critical for you, you say if you really want them, they can be purchased as an addition. So if you are interested in that, do get in touch with our support team. But I'll show you this one in action as well in just a moment. And what this report enables you to do is run for a specific date range. So not only in your current financial year, but it means then that you could run beyond the end of your financial year as well. So it's a nice, easy way at getting that information. So let's have a look at these two options. I'll share my screen. We'll get back to my desktop. So the first one was the standard profit and loss. So this one at the top here. So if we just preview that one, and I'm going to choose the option future to future, and we'll just OK that. Now, hopefully the majority of you are familiar with the way that the profit and loss calculates. So what we've got year to date, now year to date will always run from month one of whatever your current financial year is set to. So in my case, it runs from January 2024 to December 2024. So year to date will always run from January 2024 in this instance. The period column though, and for those of you that hopefully you remember this from yesterday's session if you did attend it, the period column it calculates as per whatever period you specified. So basically this period column is my profit and loss for what will be my new financial year. So it's picking up essentially any balances from January 2025 onwards. So that's one way of getting at that information. If you just want a nice quick solution, just run it future to future. So it's the period column that you'd be interested in. You don't want to include previous year's figures at all. So it's just this column that you'd be interested in. But again, the issue with that is that it's not fully data sensitive. So again, I can't specify sort of from January 2025 to the end of February 2025. It's just future to future. Those are the only options I've got for that. So that's the first option you've got. The next option, for those of you on the standard and professional, or those of you on the essentials if you do buy the reports, is to go into the reports area and you would choose the relevant folder for your relevant management report you're after. So you can see we've got a balance sheet folder, we've got a trial balance folder, and we've got a profit and loss folder. Now, the one I'm going to quickly run is this one here. This is the one that the criteria looks a lot more complex when you go into it. So the transactional profit and loss. Now, if I just preview that one, you'll see the criteria values window that pops up. So you remember for the standard P&L report, for instance, it just says, right, which month do you want to run it from and to, and which chart of accounts? So you still get the chart of accounts option. However, this time you do get what date range do you want to run this for? So this is where you could run for part months, etc. Or, keeping in with the theme of what we're looking at currently, is we can run it for what will be my new financial year. So I could enter whatever date range I want in here. Now, if you do straddle sort of a financial year end where you've already run the year end for that sort of period, then it's going to give you probably some unusual figures, because there are year-end journals that would be included in the mix then. So if I just run this report, just as an example, I'll do my next financial year, which in this case just defaults to the full 2025 financial year. If you wanted to, obviously you can choose other periods as well. If I just narrow that right down. So what's the date today? Actually, we are in April now, and it's the 2nd today. So we can run it like that. And again, if I just OK that. Now, this is probably going to take a little bit longer than the standard report. So the figures that we're after, again, they're in the period column. Year to date is still going to look at your existing financial year, but the period column is the one that we're after. That's got the figures in for what will be that new financial year. Now, I did set it at the beginning of what will be the new financial year, but I don't have to run it like that if I don't want to. We'll just close out. I'll run it again. We'll change the dates this time. So I'll do next financial year, but I'll then change it. So I could run that from the 23rd of January 2025 to, let's pick another date. We'll do a partway through March, see if I've got any values entered. So we got some figures in there. So you can do that. So if you're after an unusual period away from calendar months, this is the report from you. But it does mean that you can get at that quite very easily as well. Get at that the profit and loss report for what will be your new financial year. Now, I'll quickly mention the third option as well that wasn't mentioned on the slides there. It's not something we'd normally recommend. But if let's say you're in the 2024 financial year and you've already entered 2025 transactions, what you could do is back up that data, run a year end on your live company, which will advance your financial year start date to take you into the 2025 financial year. You run whatever reports you need for that financial year, just using those standard options at the top. So it would then mean that you can run the sort of the trial balance, the profit and loss, and the balance sheet for what is then your new financial year. And then once you've done that, you would restore back to your current position, where the financial year, in my case, would be in 2024. Not recommended, but it used to be the workaround that was provided for you. Right, any additional questions on that? So future years, quite straightforward. You've got those two key options. I'll just go pop back to the slide. So again, those two key options, the standard report going into nominal codes, and then clicking likes of profit and loss and choosing future to future. So remember, it's the period column you'd be after, or that transactional management report. So going into nominal codes, into the reports option, choosing the profit and loss folder, and it's the transactional profit and loss report that you're after. So that one, you can run it for whatever date range you want. Quick question there from Shireen there. Just quickly get that question. Asking, can you drill down in the transactional reports? You can't. I'll just quickly show you that one as well, just to confirm it. But within nominal codes, I'll go back into that reports folder, profit and loss, that one there. I'll just preview it. Now, do be aware this one. It's going to take longer to generate compared to the standard profit and loss. Remember, the standard profit and loss, a lot of that calculation is already done on that month by month basis for you. So it's just adding up basic totals for the standard profit and loss. This one, it needs to look at individual transactions and do all the additions, etc. in the background. So let me just do that one again. And you'll see when I preview this report, you'll see that the figures don't appear in blue, so I can't drill down on them. If you wanted that information, you're gonna have to start what I used to term troubleshooting when I was on support back in the day. You would need to start looking at chart of accounts, the default layout accounts, what range is included in product sales, what nominal range, and then you would have to look at things like nominal activity reports for that range of nominal codes. So that's the kind of thing you'd need to do if you wanted to, equivalent of drilling down on the figures included on this report. Hope that makes sense. Right, okay. Let's crack on then. So third sort of area that we're going to look at, or the third period that we're going to look at, is what do you do if you need reports from a previous financial year? So what options have you got? A couple of questions come through there as well about how can you check what level of the software you're on. So easiest way to do that, I'll just quickly pick that one up. I'll quickly show you because there's a few questions relating to that. Just go back to my screen. If you're on the professional level, easiest thing, just at the title bar on the top here. So Sage 50 accounts, mine says professional, indicating what level I'm on. If you're on essentials, it'll say Sage 50 accounts essentials. If you're on standard, I think it just says Sage 50 accounts. So that's how you can tell. You can also tell by going into help and then about as well. So that's how you're gonna check what level of the software you're on. Right, okay, let's quickly pop back to the slides and we'll start looking at what options for a previous financial year. So there's a few more options this time. So one, PDF copies. Did you take copies of those reports at the time? If you did, then great. You've got them saved. You can just access those. You don't have to run any reports. So if it's just a case you've lost your trial balance or your P&L reports that you saved at the time, you can't find it. If you've got your PDF copy saved somewhere, nice and easy to access them. You've got the company archive. Now, a company archive is something that gets created as part of your year end. I'll show you this one in a moment as well. And it means that you can go access the company archive, which takes you back to that point in time of when the archive was actually created and whatever the financial year was set at the point when you created that archive. And then you can run whatever reports you want. If you're on version 30.1 or higher, you've also got the option to potentially restore a backup into your practice company if you don't have an archive available. So if you've moved moved PCs, or you're working from a new PC and you're just running it standalone, maybe you don't have access to the archives, or you didn't create archives at the time, or maybe you've deleted them. So for whatever reason they're not there, then you've got the practice company that you could potentially restore a backup into. Again, it would almost transport you back to that point in time in the practice company. You can run whatever reports you want. You've got a prior year report that's available from the nominal codes toolbar at the top, just called prior year. You've got a similar one, comparative report. So again, on the nominal codes toolbar, comparative P&L. Now that prior year report and the comparative P&L report basically going to show you virtually identical information. Just the comparative potentially would pull budget information through as well if you're on the standard budgeting method. And then of course, you've got the transactional reports again. So again, because I can set whatever date range I want, I could say, right, I want that for the previous financial year. Right, let's start running through a few of these options just so you can see what I'm actually referring to. Now, what I'm going to quickly do, at the moment, we're in the January 2024 to December 2024 financial year. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly run a year end on this data. So we go tools, period end, year end. Obviously for yourself, if you're not familiar with year end or you need a bit of a reminder, we do run regular webinars on that one, and there's recordings available on it as well. But you would go through the normal procedure. I'm going to create that archive as part of that year end, just so we can see that as an example as well. The rest of the options I'm just going to ignore. I'm just going to click run year end. So I'll just click yes to that, and yes to that. So I'll just quickly let that run through. Let's preview it. End of year end report. We'll get rid of that. And it's telling me that my set of data is now in the 2025 financial year. So we'll just OK that. You can see that at the bottom as well. So previously we would start at January 2024 at the beginning of the session. I've now run a year end on this one, so I'm actually in the January 2025 financial year. So what options do I have for, let's say I want to look back and I want to run a report for December, up to the end of December 2024. bearing in mind that that is now the previous financial year. Well, the first option was when you're running your management reports as part of that year end. If you have done it, let's just get rid of some of these windows I've got open. So if you have done it, I've got the Sage Reports folder on my desktop. And when you're running your reports, you can save copies of them, obviously. And it means it could be as simple as, right, again, I've lost the report. I need to email a copy to someone. Well, right, there's the PDF copy. I can pop the file in Teams or email it, or even just view it or print it. So that's a nice, easy option. I always recommend that as part of if you're running a year end, save copies of those reports just in case you do need them. So that's option one. Let's go back to Sage. Option two was to do with the archive that gets created as part of your year end. To access an archive, I just go to File, Open, and then I've got an option called Company Archive. Now I've actually got two. You might find if you've been using Sage for a long time that you might have a lot more. So select the archive that you're after. So this is the one that is literally just being created when I run the year end. And the financial year on that one, it's whatever it was at that point in time. So if I just highlight that one and click open, and it's going to ask me to re-enter my password. Now, the trick with archives, something you need to remember is that an archive includes your passwords, whatever it was at the time when that archive was created. It's not your current password, it's whatever it was at the time when that archive was taken. So if I just pop in my password, click log on, and that's me in the archive at this stage. So it's telling me at the top, I'm in an archive company. It's also telling me that the archive company I'm in, the financial year on that archive company is set to begin January 2024. So it means if I need to, I can go into nominal codes and I can run a trial balance, I can run a profit and loss, and I can run that again, I can run it up to month 12, December 2024. So I've got access to that. I can rerun my reports. The only thing that you would notice any different is that on your title of your reports, because it includes your company name, it's going to include the word archive and it'll say year end, in this case, year end 2024. But an archive there it's there for reference purposes and running reports. It means I can go back essentially to that point in time when that archive was taken. So it's a nice, easy way. If you need to get reports for a previous financial year, just pop into it if you've got it available. Right, just going to go back to my standard company data, which will take me back into the company where the one that I've just run the financial year end for. So that's telling me again, financial year at the bottom there on the status bar, starts January 2025. So those are the first two options. Next, if you're on version 30.1 or higher, you have an option to restore a backup of your data from whenever that was taken. You can restore that into your practice company. So it's a bit like accessing an archive. So if I go to File, and because I'm on version 31 myself, but 30.1 or above. If you're not sure about your version, it's just help and then about. It'll tell you in the top left corner. So this one gives me an option, File, Restore into Practice Company. I'll choose the option, Use My Data, browse for my backup file. So I've got it in my desktop. I've got it copied in my Sage Reports year-end folder. That's the one I'm after. So I'll continue. I'll restore that. It'll just prompt me to log in again. Now, the big thing you'll notice is this yellow bar at the top. It tells me you're currently in the practice company. Obviously, if I want to get back to my live data, I just go File, Open Company Data. But I've just restored that backup. Now that backup is essentially, I did take it earlier this morning, but it's a one I would have taken as part of that year-end process had I followed the individual steps through. That's the one I would have wanted to restore to. So it tells me in this practice company that the financial year starts January 2024. So at this stage, I'm going to nominal codes, and again, it means I can get at the likes of the profit and loss from that financial year. Now, with a practice company, if you do restore into it, means the idea of being able to restore as well is that if maybe you attend a webinar, you think, that's a good idea, but actually I'd like to play with that feature, departments, budgets, whatever it is, I want to play with that feature, but base that on a copy of my live data. It means that you can see what that looks like and apply to your data. So it makes it a bit more meaningful than just using the demonstration data. Once you've finished, if I just go to File, Open, and Open Company Data to take me back into my live company. So this is my live set of data. So I'll just log back into it. So again, the bar disappears. I'm in my live company now. I'm not in the practice company. And you can see the financial years back to on my live set of data beginning January 2025. So that's a good way to get at that information as well. Now in your live company, obviously we've covered probably the 3 recommended options. Another option you've got that we mentioned was to go into nominal codes, and you've got your, first of all, the prior year report. So if I click on that one, and I'll just preview it, and we can choose the relevant period that we're after. Now the prior year report compares whatever period you specify in the current year, it compares that to the equivalent period from your previous financial year. So if I'm wanting, say, let's say I want a full profit and loss report for 2024. So if I set the equivalent period in my new financial year, so January 25 to December 25, just okay that. And we get the information that we're after. So you can see, let's zoom in a little bit. I can already see that myself. So it presents it in the format of a profit and loss report. So this the standard P&L that you're used to. Obviously, you've got some extra information, extra columns, but the ones you'd be after is the prior year column. So this would be the equivalent, this figure here for against product sales, that would be the equivalent of January 2024 to December 2024, because we're running it for the full current financial year. So it compares that to the same period from the previous financial year. So that's, again, a nice, easy option. If you're just wanting to sort of, oh yeah, what were my sales again for that financial year? It's a nice, easy way at getting at that information. Now, the other one that I mentioned was very similar, was the compare P&L or the comparative P&L report. Now, this gives you a few extra options. So again, you can still specify the same period, your chart of accounts. This one gives you the option to include budget information as well. Now, I'm going to choose do not show for that one. I'll just ignore the budget information. But then the prior year values, what is it you want to see? Do you want to show them? Do you want to show it with a variance? Do you want to show both as a variance, as a value, and a percentage? Now, if I just click show and OK that. Now, this will be tiny because generally it needs to show that much information. The font is minuscule on this report. So let's zoom in as much as I can. And this time, again, we've got a similar format, actual being for your current financial year, so 2025 in my case, and the equivalent prior year figures will show in the prior year column. So again, nice, easy way at getting at that information. So they are very similar depending on the compare P&L option, this one at the top here. These ones are available on all levels of the software as well, by the way. So obviously that compare P&L, because you can show additional information, extra columns, budget information, etc. It is really, really small. Now, the final one we mentioned is now to pick up on the transactional management reports. Now, the transactional management reports, so still within nominal codes, I'll go into reports again, and again, we'll pick the profit and loss, transactional P&L. Now, if I just preview that one, and if I set this to the 2024 financial year, so I'll just use it from the date picker. If you're not using that date picker and you're scrolling through calendars, just give it a click. Sometimes it's much easier just to do that and then maybe click through the calendar a couple of clicks than it is to go from, say, 1980 up to the current year. So I'm going to set that to my full previous financial year. And if I just OK that, what I'm expecting, and hopefully you'll see this in a moment, is that when we do this, we've just got zeros. Now, the reason for that is that we've just set a date range. Now, the date range, yes, it's the full financial year. But if you're familiar with year end, when you run a year end, what the software will do, and if we go into the transactions list, it posts this series of journals to clear down your year-end balances, and it does that on the last day of that financial year. So we got all these journals clearing out the year-to-date balances as at the last day of that financial year, and it's including those in the report. So what I need to do is I need to add 2 bits of criteria when I run the report. I need to enter the date range, but I need to find the start of these ledger year-end journals. So I'll just scroll through, find the first one. So it's transaction 603. So basically what I want is I want a transactional profit and loss based on the previous financial year, but I don't want it to pick up these ledger year-end journals which have been clearing down the balances. So that's the trick with this report. If you need to do it from an earlier period, you need to exclude those ledger year-end transactions. So back to nominal codes, back into reports, profit and loss, transactional profit and loss. We'll specify the date range we're after. So again, using that little date picker tool, last financial year, and transaction number. So I'm going to go from transaction 1 up to and including 6002, which is the transaction prior to the start of those ledger year-end journals. So we now OK that one. And then we've got our figures there. So again, it's the period column that we're after. Hoping you can see that. So again, that's a nice way of getting at that. But the trick is, if you're running it for a previous period, you need to take into account, does it include any ledger year-end journals or not? If it does, you need to not only set your date range, but that transaction number range as well. I hope that makes sense. So we've covered the options. Remember, if you want a bit of a reminder on those options, download the handouts. So click that link on your taskbar down the right-hand side. The link to the handout will be included on your follow-up email as well. So it'll just give you a bit of a reminder what options you've got. Right, now that brings us to the end of the demos for this morning's session. So if you've got any additional questions, I can see you've kept Jackie, Abby and Matt very busy this morning. But keep them coming. We'll hang around for a few more minutes. If you weren't quite with us at the beginning of the session and you've got questions, you just need to click that little speech bubble icon on the taskbar down the right, and then you'll be able to start typing in that bottom corner. Again, the handout link, you can see that on the taskbar as well. And if anyone needs a bit of a recap, a link to this morning's recording will be included in your follow-up email. You'll get that in round about 1 hour's time. Now, Additional support-wise, loads of information in the Help Centre. I always love to promote the Help Centre. There's guides in there. You'll find answers to common questions. You see webinar recordings. Some articles will contain short videos. If you can't find what you're after, it will prompt you on how to get in touch. Obviously, you can just search for your questions as well. So you can access that from your software, or just open your web browser, go to sage.co.uk/help. Right, upcoming webinars. Now we mentioned the obviously the management reports webinar series at the beginning. I'll remind you of those in a moment. One topic you may have heard a lot about recently, or will do very soon, is Copilot in Sage 50 accounts. Now we've started running webinars on these. We've got one on Friday afternoon this week. If you are interested, do get yourself signed up. So Copilot is like a digital assistant that sits in the background. You can access it anytime from key areas within your business. It'll help you understand more about who owes you money, who you owe money to, what's outstanding, what's overdue, helping you to manage stock, and also relating to today's session, business performance as well. So helping you to keep an eye on that type of information. So even if you aren't using it just yet, if you want to find out what it's all about, get yourself registered. We're running those sessions on a weekly basis now. And obviously it's going to have additional enhancements as well going forward. Again, just watch out for your follow-up email. It'll include the registration link you need. Just as a reminder, we've now added in dates for the first 2 weeks of May as well. So if you're not able to attend 5 out of the 6 topics plus one of the quiz sessions, we're running all of these topics as a bit of a repeat in those first 2 weeks. So if there's any sessions you have missed, or maybe you want to go in, have a look at your reports and think, right, actually, I've now got these queries, or you want to just confirm your understanding is right, get yourself signed up. You're more than welcome to come along again if you want. Now, the badge will be issued, the digital badge will be issued and will be made available to you normally within about 2 weeks after we finish the original planned series. And I've got a little video which I'm going to share with you on Accredible, which is where the badges are stored and where they're issued from. I'm just going to quickly play that, and then we'll come back and start picking up some additional questions in just a moment. Okay, so that was Incredible, the software where we'll be, as I say, we'll be issuing the badges. Now you will be informed via email, and that will be normally within about 2 weeks of us finishing the original series. So we're running the original series over this week and next, and then we'll run off some reports and sort of see who qualifies for that, and you'll be emailed in due course. So you'd expect to receive it within about 2 weeks of that. Right, any additional questions? If you want to quickly pop them in there, we're going to continue to hang on for just another couple of minutes. If anyone's about to leave, I can see people starting to leave now. Everyone starting to think about lunch maybe. Many thanks for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we've had a few comments come through there saying, right, Joe's mentioned that she's been cursing for years, the inability to run monthly reports, etc., into your next financial year. So you've now got a solution. Excellent. A lot of people don't realize what options are there, and that's what we hope to do, just to help you get more from your software. There will be a little survey pop up as you leave today's session, so if you can take a minute to complete that, it should only take about a minute as well. So rate the webinar, give us a score, share any thoughts, ideas, let us know what topics you'd like to see covered going forwards. So if you can do that, it'd be greatly appreciated. We love to read the comments as well, just to see we're hitting the mark or not. Your follow-up email, which has got the various links on that you need to get registered for the other sessions, to watch a recording of today's session, if you need a bit of a recap, and also so you can watch recordings of other topics that we've covered previously as well. That will be with you in around about an hour's time. Right, any additional questions? So a quick one from Karen there. Karen, you mentioned there that with the transactional report for the previous financial year, is it correct that year to date is all zero? So yes, it's the period column that you need to be looking at. That's the one. So year to date is always based around your current financial year. So because we're looking for a period prior to the start of your financial year, it's the period column that is going to use that date range in this instance. Right, okay, quick question about webinar dates as well. Those dates should be live on the system. I'm sure I put them on this morning, so they should be live now. It is just repeats of these sessions. So what you'll need to do is click into the management report sessions. You don't need to scroll down. They're not listed further down the article yet, but if there's any sessions you've missed, those options to register for the management reports badge series within the first 2 weeks of May, those are at the top of the article and you can register for those now. Right, okay. Once again, many thanks for coming along. Please take that minute to complete the survey and hopefully we'll see you on some other sessions very soon. Take care.